Well, Karsten, one of the things that I think is fascinating about your situation is that you have actually been now in two companies that have really gone through a transition towards customer centricity and using the Net Promoter System.
Customer advocacy, what we do with NPS, the customer centricity has to be lived from the top. It's a matter of the heart.
I like the word you used, lived from the top, because in a lot of organizations you see the senior leaders say the right words and then fail to back them up with the right kind of behaviors. What do you think are the sorts of behaviors that generate that kind of loyalty, that create that kind of energy?
You mean on the leadership side?
Yeah, for a leader.
Well, I think first of all, it starts always with the love and the feeling and care for people.
Empathy.
Empathy, very much to do with empathy and curiosity. If you don't have that, if human connection doesn't give you real energy, it's very difficult, I'd say. You can pretend it, you can fake it, but I don't think you will be successful. So it's you have to live that. That's the foundation. Sure. And of course, it requires a lot of discipline. And sometimes you get into situations where there is a trade-off. Sometimes, you can't always do it. But it's really, I think it's about authentic, deep leadership when it comes to customers and people.
One of the things that companies like E.ON struggle with is just getting the voice of the customer through a huge workforce. How are you bringing the idea of the customer, the needs of the customer, this idea of empathy that you talked about, into the organization?
We have different ways of doing that. So we have hundreds of customer immersion sessions throughout the year where senior leaders are obliged to go and everyone else is encouraged to go, so to really meet customers, to talk to them. We've changed our complaints process where we take a much more active role on all management levels to reach out to customers, to look after them. Whenever we talk about a product design, it's experience it yourself. So going online, I did that last weekend, ordering something, and I had a conversation with one of my colleagues, said this was my experience, this is I think what was really good, that I thought was missing. So whenever we have conversations, in every single management meeting, to help people to think a bit differently, to ask, let's go through a bit more detail. So move away from I almost would have said the bullshit headline on the chart, down
from the theoretical
level,
mathematical.
what's really going on. Let's go to the common sense area. That is very important because this is where you, in a very natural way, always have the customer in the equation.
Talk about the role of the Net Promoter System in this transformation.
Well, we introduced Net Promoter Score, NPS, back in 2009. And so the strategic NPS or top-down NPS, we've gone down, of course, touchpoint NPS, episode NPS. Now we're rolling out what we call Heartbeat. It's a real-time system that gives our colleagues a real-time customer feedback, including, of course, very important, the verbatims. What do customers say? We use that for coaching and training. And 20% of everyone's bonus is actually dependent on NPS. That's a big thing. That's a significant thing. And we set ourselves, I'd say, very ambitious targets. We're not focusing just on the absolute score. We're also focusing on the relative improvement versus competition. And there we have a competitor basket, not just of the usual suspects. NPS has been absolutely instrumental in creating the noise, the disturbance in the organization to get us there. Provocation, and it's constantly there. It's part of your bonus. You talk about it. You're not there. It creates a bit of tension, pressure as well. Discomfort. The challenge with that is perception, changing perception, emotions, feelings, is a long-term thing. We don't change perception overnight, and yet You look at it every quarter. And striking the right balance between being very tactical, making the wrong inferences from results, from data, spurious correlations, what have you. This is a challenge. And we always, I believe we need to have impact, we need to have focus, we need to have consistency. And sometimes it may take more time than we think. And yet we have to have the courage to do that and not fall into the short-term trap of being too tactical.
Well, it's interesting because I've heard you talk before about values and purpose as the motivators for action. And it seems to me that people put their best energy, their most creativity into a job when they believe that they're working for a higher purpose and they see a path to contribute. And I think part of what you have been doing is trying to create the conditions under which people can succeed there.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I'd say
it's hard.
What of course, what matters, we're in business. We want to make money. We have to create money for shareholders and
to fund the business.
And to fund the business.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, if the financials don't stack up, I'm the most unhappy person. There's no question. But below that, or before that, I fundamentally believe it has a lot to do with values, something that you can never compromise. And you can't build a sustainable business if you don't have a solid foundation of values. Mm-hmm. And the value I'm talking about is actually quite fundamental and obvious, but it's actually sometimes forgotten. It's the same in the relation for customers. It's the same for the relation between colleagues in an organization, and regardless of hierarchy. And this is trust and commitment. So if a customer is with us, they use our products. Before we sign the commercial contract, we have a social contract. We don't disappoint you. I commit to deliver against your expectations. In that sense, performance is part of values. And that's okay, and has to work that way. Otherwise, we can't live together as human beings in a successful community, in a successful company.
You know, another important principle that is corollary to what you just said is that trust and commitment from a customer or from an employee are earned. Absolutely. You can't mandate it, you can't drive it, you can't make it happen, you have to earn it.
Absolutely.
And that is hard work.
And earning it is an ongoing process. Unfortunately, also with customers, we can lose it in 1 second. Yes. And it takes a long time. Building something always takes longer than destroying something. Absolutely. And that's why one really has to take great care of that. It's never a given.